We have some wild news to discuss today as reports have come out revealing that not only are the Leafs potentially looking to trade Mitch Marner, but they could be looking to move on from other members of the core four as well. So I'm going to break that down in this episode, as well as discuss some other trade possibilities, as it seems like a new report from Chris Johnson reveals that the core four is definitely over. Stay tuned for all that in this episode. Before we do, if you are a part of the 78.3% who aren't subscribed, make sure to hit that subscribe button. We're on the road to 9,000. We may have hit it by the time this video goes live, so thank you guys for your continued support. It means the world to Darius and I. And Darius, a bit of a breaking news report from Chris Johnson today, and just reports in general that have come out regarding the core four. We obviously knew that, we assumed, I guess, that the core four was going to be over following another devastating, heartbreaking loss to the Boston Bruins in this case. But this just dropped this morning from Chris Johnson saying, I can't see a scenario where the core four guys come back to this team. I'd say it's close to a 0% chance that all those guys are back. And obviously, we went through the interview with Brad Living and all these guys, and it seemed like that the core four would be breaking up, but we weren't 100% sure. We were obviously erring on the side of caution because there's been times where we felt this way in the past and they ultimately didn't make moves. But Darius, this is a notable reporter saying that it is almost a sure 100% possibility that at least one of the core four guys, which we'll discuss later, is gone.
Yeah, it looks like that's the direction they're heading in for Chris Johnson, and not only him, other insiders, because like we've been talking about, the Leafs have their beat writers and guys like that, and they offer some valuable information throughout the year, and I really do appreciate them. But when I think about Leafs and big bombs of news dropping, either in the summer or anything to do with transactions, Chris Johnson and Elliot Friedman are the guys that I really think are in tune with everything and have a good read on what's going on. So for Chris Johnson to say that there's a near 0% chance that this happens going forward, it seems like the philosophy of the core four is absolutely dead. And another report that came out as well is it's not only the core four that they might move on from. It could be the core five. It could be Morgan Rielly that is on the trade block as well if there were a deal in place. Now, I don't think that they're actively shopping Morgan Rielly, for example. I think that they're actively shopping one of the core four, that's for sure. But in terms of Morgan Rielly, we know that Brad Living wants to rejig the entire blue line. So that may include Morgan Rielly and restructuring the entire salary of the team and the defensive core in that way. He could be a casualty of that because, again, he is getting older. Maybe they want to move in a younger direction in that way. I wouldn't be opposed to keeping Morgan Rielly. I think he's been great, and he is still a very, very good player. I would be on team keep Morgan Rielly personally, but if they were to move on from him, obviously it's for the betterment of the team and because of the salary structure. So I think that'd be really interesting this summer if they were to move on from not only one, but two of the core five, let's call them now. And Morgan Rielly could be a part of that. And obviously Mitch Marner, because it looks like William Nylander and Austin Matthews won't be going anywhere.
Yeah, and I mean, this was the big report, is that yes, it's almost 100% thing that he's going to be gone. And we kind of knew that coming in to the, I guess, the offseason in general and the press conference as well. But you mentioned it about Chris Johnson. He is the guy for Toronto Maple Leafs news along with Elliot Friedman. And him to be saying this, it's a bit of a shock. And then this came out from Merrick. And again, this was Merrick's obviously in tuned. He has some inside sources, but I think this was so take it with a grain of salt. Maybe more speculation, but informed speculation we'll go with, because he took this from the press conference and what his thoughts were on it. And you kind of just covered it, but Marner, Tavares, and Rielly are on the table while Matthews and Nylander are untouchable. Obviously, Nylander and Matthews, they're going to be a part of the team going forward. They're untouchable. But Tavares and Rielly are very interesting here. And I mean, Marner's an interesting player. And you can see here, again, same report, the Leafs will consider the possible idea of trading Morgan Rielly. But Darius, you kind of mentioned it. Rielly had he had an okay postseason. He hasn't been as bad as Mitch Marner in the postseason or anything like that. He obviously has a stain on his name right now because of the David Pastrnak goal that was ultimately mainly on him. But Rielly's a guy who's been with the Leafs forever, and he's not on the same level as Matthews and Nylander as a part of that core going forward. I mean, he's not really technically a part of the core four at this point. But the idea of potentially trading Rielly is one that we've discussed but haven't really put much thought into, and Tavares as well. Do you think that it would be worth it for them to even get rid of Morgan Rielly at this point? Because we kind of talk about a shakeup. Maybe if they get rid of Rielly and Marner, the haul you get back could be massive.
It would be great. I just don't think you're getting the skill back to match what you're giving up. But at the same time, I think cap space is very valuable in the NHL right now, and you can be able to make your team better in that way using the available cap space, because the Leafs are right up against it right now, and it's clear that this formula isn't working. This philosophy is not working. So I think if they were to move on from, I think the first order of business personally is you go to Mitch Marner and you ask him, give us a list of a couple teams that you'd be willing to go to and look for a trade in that way before you look at Morgan Rielly. I think Mitch Marner is the guy in everyone's mind that they're going to move on from first, or at least try to. It is in his, the ball is still there for him that, he makes the decision here. But Morgan Rielly, if the trade did make sense, I could see them moving on from him too. Like I said, they want to look at rejigging the entire blue line. They need a goalie too. They need salary. They need to rethink this entire thing. And in terms of Morgan Rielly, or sorry, John Tavares, like you brought up as well, I think he retires a Leaf. Whether or not that's going to be as captain, that's a whole different story. I do think it's Austin Matthews' team now. I think that eventually, whether it be next year or the year after, he's going to get the C. But I think John Tavares retires as a Maple Leaf. He'll sign another contract with a lower AAV, and that'll be all fine and dandy. He'll be a third line center. He'll still be a useful player. It's just his cap hit right now looks horrendous for what he is in his career. So he'll probably end up staying. They'll ride out the year until his contract's up, sign him to something less. And that's probably what would happen there, because I don't see him waiving to leave Toronto unless the Leafs get really creative with the trade. There is an option there, but yeah, I would think first order of business is Mitch Marner, and if the right deal comes along, I think they're open to trading anyone that's not Matthews and Nylander.
Yeah, changes need to be made. And you look at some of this stuff. Do you think this is the end of the core four? You look at the betting odds. Any one of Matthews, Marner, Nylander, and Tavares, any one of them be traded by October 1st is plus 550. I'm not a betting man, but if you are a betting man, that seems like a pretty good deal, or pretty good odds, sorry. Because I feel like at this point, one of those guys, obviously not Matthew or Nylander, but one of Marner, Tavares, and really even Morgan Rielly could be on the way out. And you look, you're never going to get the assets back for Marner or Rielly in the sense of, especially Marner at this point, where he's 1 year left on his no-move clause. But Darius, we've discussed this, and we've discussed it in previous videos as well. If you get rid of Marner and Rielly, you're not only getting the assets you get back, whether that's hopefully a right-handed shot defenseman and some more depth, you open up cap space, a lot of cap space. And if Shanahan and Keith Pelly, if he gives orders to make changes, and Brad Living's like, okay, let's make some changes, there's no better way to do that than getting rid of those guys and just completely overhauling what used to be the core four, and now would be, you keep Tavares, so core three, I guess, but you just completely overhaul the team and a roster that really needs to be overhauled. I think Matthews and Marner, or Nylander, can be your 1A and 1B on a championship team or a Stanley Cup winning team, but I think the rest of the guys need to be changed, and that's what Shanahan failed to do for the past really 8 years.
Yeah, and if you look at the regular season too, like Nylander's going to get you 40 goals a year. Matthews might get you 60 for the next couple of years. Like he looks like he's on fire, right? Like they're going to put up goals for you, right? You have your scoring there in the regular season. You always have, and they were one of the highest scoring teams in the regular season this year. The team does not work in the playoffs. They have to rejig it. And listen, the big takeaway for me out of all of this is Chris Johnson is saying the idea is dead. Like, look for this to, finally. It's over. It is over, right? Like, he is pretty much coming out and saying that he believes that they are absolutely moving on, and it will be in short order. It could be this summer. He just doesn't know which one it's going to be, and they're going to have to get creative any possible route that they go here, whether it be Marner, whether it be Rielly, whether it be Tavares, which I think is less likely. They're going to have to get really, really creative, but the idea is done. Right, Keith Pelly has come in and said, we want to win. This team is not a winner the way it's built right now. So that's my biggest takeaway, that, he thinks that, yes, the Leafs are absolutely done with this idea and they're moving forward. So I think that's a good thing if you're a fan, because we've gotten nothing out of this.
Yeah, it's been the first real test for Brad Living, and we're going to keep you guys updated all the way through. But that'll wrap it up. Thank you guys for watching, and make sure to hit the subscribe button. Let us know what your thoughts are on all this, and we'll see you soon.